Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. So this video has to do with fate and my personal beliefs on how fate works and if it really exists. And the best way I can think about going about this is trying to define fate first. And for my own research and my own studies and then, kind of my own beliefs, I've realized that there are two ways that people define fate, right? One is like this destiny, right? Somebody like, the fates like in Greek mythology and Roman mythology, some ladies are weaving a tapestry of time and you're just like one thread within it, and it's a beautiful visual, right? I don't believe in that, right? I don't believe that there is someone out there that is deciding what's going to happen before it happens. I believe that there is too much randomness, it just doesn't fit within my logic, right? And I respect if that's what you choose to believe, and that does make it easier for some people. All respect to you. I just personally don't believe in it. The next type of fate, kind of moving on from that, is that something outside of your control is what is causing you to be put in a situation, and that is considered fate, right? You don't choose if an asteroid comes and hits Earth, so your fate is to die by asteroid, right? And that one's a lot harder to simply say, oh no, I don't quite believe in that, because there could be some truth in it. And fate's just a word, right? All these are just words that we're trying to define. But this idea of how much control do you have over what happens, and how much of that is fate, something you can't control, and how much of that is something that you can control, is a very interesting point. And that's kind of what the majority of this video is going to be about. Because I think that people have a shocking amount of control over what happens to themselves, more so than they even realize, right? And I think a lot of that only comes up in hindsight. Nobody thinks that what they're going to do right now, well, not nobody, right? But it's very difficult, I guess, to always make decisions looking at the future. And that's not really a good way to live life. You have to be able to live life in the moment, right? But you also have to be aware of past experiences and how they led to who you became, and then how to make decisions now to lead to who you want to become, right? In this line of life, right? And there's probably better analogies out there, right? But it's like a river. Everyone's heard this. It's like a river, right? And you can't change what's happened, and you can't guarantee what's going to happen in the future. All you know is right now. Like right now is all you know for sure. Right? And the present is the only thing that's ever true, right? And there's lots of beliefs, right, that, the present is, make-believe and we're in a simulation. All that stuff aside, right? From my own personal understanding, what's happening right now is absolutely true. I am talking into this phone to whoever happens to be listening. I can take a sip of water. I can make decisions based on what I want to do, right? But I can also understand that the decisions and choices I made that led me here, those are not fated decisions, right? Even things that were outside of my control, it wasn't someone else controlling it. It just, I personally either didn't have control of it, or I didn't understand how much control I had to affect a decision. And then right now, if I wanted to, be healthier and take a drink of water right now, I have absolutely full power to do that. I have my water bottle right here. But if I didn't bring my water bottle up here, all of a sudden, that thought process of I have this ability to, just get water and be healthy and hydrate is slightly different, because now I have to go get water. And then the way that my mind thinks about it could be very different, right? And so I'm going to try and break this down into a metaphor, because that's what helps me think. The closest that I could ever come up to is, let's say you're applying for a job. Right, I hope everyone's had some kind of experience or kind of knows what I'm talking about. When you apply for a job, there's tons and tons of different ways to do it. There's tons of ways to go about it. Everyone has their own personal preference. The majority of people will send in their resume and hope, right? And this idea of fate, right? If they call me back, it was fated or whatever. Or if they don't, like, there's nothing I could have done about it, and it was just bound to happen. And that's not true in the real job interview process, but also in my belief in life. Right? You don't do something and then something else is just guaranteed is going to happen no matter what, right? And there's ways in which right now you can make a decision in life that will drastically change what happens in the future. Now, you can't change the past, right? The past, to me, is the closest you can get to a fate, right? Or even right now, this present moment. There's nothing you can do to change what has led you here, right? But I can change right now what I choose to do. That will change my fate, right, looking into the future. And again, there are some things that are outside of my control, right? But I feel that there are very few things that are so far outside of my control that I can't in some way affect them, right? And so again, going back to the example of if a meteor comes and hits, yes, there's very little that I see logically that I can do to change it. But if this was if this was a true fear of mine, and this is something that more than anything I wanted to prevent from happening, I probably could, right? Not personally, I'd have to get tons and tons of people in, but I could, start making videos. I can start studying it more. I can try and understand more about this scenario, and I can lead it to where, in this lifetime, you can't make some kind of laser that's going to shoot down, an asteroid or something like that. But I could very drastically change the fate of people in the future, or even myself, by starting right now and making the decisions to get to a point, right? And so going back to this job interview process, right? If you apply for a job, you send in a resume and you don't hear back or anything like that, and you just say, it wasn't meant to be, and you move on, that's fine, right? And more power to you. The truth is you have tons and tons of ways to maybe affect that. And again, there might have been something in the past that you did that now makes it impossible for you to get that job. Let's say in the past you splashed water on the CEO at a bar, right? Now that CEO looks at it, remembers who you are, you're never getting that job. And it wasn't fated to happen. You made a mistake. You splashed someone with water at a bar, you're not getting the job, right? And in that situation, there's realistically nothing you could have done, right? But it wasn't fate that led you there. It was your own decisions that led you there. A second example, if you apply for that job, is how you apply for that job. What are you doing in the current moment, right? So you didn't make any mistakes in the past. Maybe even you studied extra for this job. You felt like you put in a lot of effort. But now you're not comparing yourself to the tons and tons of other people that might be applying for that job. So while you might have done a lot, that doesn't mean that other people didn't apply just as much or even more effort. They don't know a few more people than you know. They didn't put in equal effort, right? So now other people are affecting your fate, and you don't have control over those other people. You only have control over yourself. So it's easy to assume, right, that it was just gonna happen. There's nothing you could do about it. That's not entirely true, right? Now, it's true that you can't affect what those other people do, but you can still improve yourself to compete with those other people, right? And some people will just get the job, and it could not be meant to be because you haven't applied yourself early enough, right? You haven't done enough from the past to affect the present you to guarantee this job for future you. But it has nothing to do with something truly outside of your control, because you could have met those people, right? You could have, really focused on this degree, and it's maybe now just isn't the right time. Maybe you just didn't put in enough effort. And it could, at the same time be that you are applying for a job that you don't qualify for, right? And I've done this before, but it is, you send an application in the hopes, thinking that, I've done all this stuff to lead up to it, and you just haven't been alive long enough, right? You're 25, 26, and these people applying are 40, 45, 40. It wasn't destiny not to get it, but you also have no control over that these people happen to be interested in the job and what led them there. Now, neither of those, to my opinion, are fate, right? It's absolutely human decisions that are leading, right, to this moment in time where you do not get this job, right? And kind of the third way that I like to think about in this job interview process, one is purely based on experience. One is outside forces, right, that you don't control, but that doesn't mean that it was destined to happen, but simply other people made decisions that you cannot control, right? The third part to me is that you yourself are not putting yourself in the best position, right? And this is really, really hard for anyone to admit, including myself, right? It can be very hard to say, I just didn't do enough, right? Or I'm not doing enough currently, right? Me sending out my resume, that's enough, right? Like at least I'm applying. And a lot of times that's not enough in life in general. Just doing it to the point where, I hope that's good, right? You're affecting your own chances with this interview and also with life to get to a place where you want to be, right? It's not fate that you didn't stay up those extra 2 hours to study, right? It's not fate that you chose to go out to the bar instead of staying home and working on like a certificate, right? And that's something that's really hard, right? It's in the moment, right? I think everything kind of stems from the current moment. You can't change the past. You can't change the future. Well, you can change the future, but you can't guarantee the future, right? All you can guarantee is what's happening right now. And that is the overall understanding, my understanding of fate, right? Is there's three ways in which it can happen, and none of those are destiny. None of those are something you have purely no control over. There are things that are harder to control. Like I said, the meteor, you currently probably have no way to do anything about it. But you can start making adjustments presently that'll affect how your future turns out. And so, in case this helps anyone, I know a lot of people are very visual, and I know I try and use metaphors and little pictures. This isn't really a picture, but it's my best way to kind of show it. This is the past, right? And these are, one of these choices is what you made. So let's say you made this choice, right? Now this choice stops you from being over here, right? And there should be tons of circles here, but now you're leading to this choice. And this choice led to now, right? From here, you can make countless choices. I just drew two here, lazy, but there's countless decisions I can make, right? And whatever those decisions makes it likelier of something happen. And it might even guarantee I can't do something over here, right? If I choose right now to throw my phone against the wall and break it, I cannot immediately make a phone call on that phone, right? That takes out that possibility, right? However, if I really wanted to make that phone call, and so I plan now to not throw my phone against the wall, I am guaranteed to be able to make that phone call. However, the truth is, I guess I even misspoke there. I'm not guaranteed to make that phone call. My phone could just die right now, right? Or, my data could go bad. So there's countless things that could stop me from making that phone call. And some of those I have more control over than others. Me throwing my phone against the wall, I'm definitely not making that phone call. And it's not fate that I won't make this phone call, right? But there is, a T-Mobile outage or something that can stop me from making this phone call. Or, like my phone could die, and that would be me not charging it, right? And also everything with fate, every decision you make will affect you in some way. And it makes certain things likelier and certain things unlikelier. And that is my belief, is that there's likely and unlikely, and how you get there. Everything from the present will either make something likelier or make something unlikelier. So again, even let's go back to the meteor. If that was my life goal, is to stop myself from dying to this meteor, everything I do is in that direction, it's likelier that I'm going to survive, and it's not going to happen. It's not guaranteed. I can't guarantee I won't die to this meteor, but it is likelier. However, if I choose not to care about it, right, it's likelier that I'm going to die. I totally said that wrong. But that's the truth, right? It's unlikely, or it's likely that I will die. Likely that I will die, likely that I won't die. So depending which one is likelier is totally dependent on my current actions. Nothing is guaranteed. And that is, my personal belief, and that's why I don't believe in fate, right? Now, it does kind of get hard when you're a baby. Like, can you really control anything? That's very difficult, right? But again, I don't believe it's destined to have happened. I believe other people made choices, and that led you to where you are. So it wasn't your fate, right, that led, because you weren't fated for anything, but it was their decisions that you were unable to affect that led you here. And if that is the one thing you want to call fate, if fate's the word you want to use to explain that, I can respect that, right? Like, words, like I said, are words, and how you want to define something is totally up to you. What I'm referring to is my very specific definitions of fate. If something is destined to happen, or you have no chance to control it, so must have been fate, these two things I do not believe in. Thank you so much for listening, and I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on it, everyone's ideas. Of course, I'm working on this whole philosophy and trying to put everything together. I understand that, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. You don't have to believe what I believe in. You know what I mean? And I respect every single person out there who wants to believe something else. And please do, right? And I'd love to hear from you guys of what you believe in, right? I'm not going to guarantee it's going to convince me or anything like that, as well as I'm not just trying to convince anyone out there. I'm hoping that this helps you, and this helps you look at it in a slightly different way. I just want to say thank you all for listening. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to make tons more, and I'd love if you give me some insight on this one and any of them in the future. You all have a wonderful day, and I hope you make good choices to lead to a better future.